Monica. Greetings from Bangkok. I am one of your classmates and deserve a contemporary perspective in teaching and learning in special education, page DSPED 524. Today I'm going to report about the SPED in United Kingdom. I am Ms. Marina Gonzalez. I am presently working in Bangkok as an immersion teacher, and I'm teaching students who are struggling in their learning in English, and some of my students have their learning disabilities. And this subject is under Professor Dr. Mona Lisa N. Valencia. What is UK? What is it called United Kingdom? United Kingdom of Great Britain, or also known as UK, is comprising of 4 countries, which include Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Each of these countries have their own legislation and regulation when it comes to special needs education. I'm going to discuss about the legislation and history of it. And from 1945, the Lunacy Act, which means that lunatic are insane person or any person being idiot or lunatic. And the Charity of the Asylum for Egypt was established in London in 1847. Between 1850 to 1860, this motivated the establishment of 4 regional large-scale asylum for Egyptians in England. Take note, it only covers England. It did not include the other 3 countries. In the 1886 Idiot Act, this made a clear distinction between lunatic, idiots, and imbeciles. And in 1890, the Lunacy Act was amended, which made the distinction between learning disability and mental illness. It was the basis of mental health law in England and Wales in 1959. Moving on, in 1913, Mental Deficiency Act, which the use of terms of idiots, imbeciles, feeble-minded, and moral imbeciles made it possible to regulate women with illegitimate children who were receiving poor relief. It was amended in 1927 and changed the terms moral imbecile and moral defective to moral deficiency. In 1929, Henry Woods reported already disputed segregation of special needs children, and it stated that mentally deficient children should not be isolated from the mainstream of education. It made me wonder that this inclusion program was already conceived in 1929. In 1930 to 1940, campaign for voluntary sterilization was started. But in 1934, Brock Report recommended sterilization, and it was 4 years after the first campaign. In 1931, South Auckland Hospital admitted its first mental defectives. It increased to 1,221 patients in 98 county boroughs and city asylum. In 1940, the first Camp Hill movement was established in Aberdeen, Scotland. These are residential communities and schools that provide support for education, employment, and daily lives of adults and children with developmental disabilities, mental health problems, and other special needs. It was founded by a group that included Austrian pediatrician Karl Koenig. 1944 Education Act, which is also known as Butler Act. This act involved a thorough adjustment in educational system throughout Wales and England. Board of Education was changed by a minister that has a direct control to local education authorities. In that same year, Disabled Person Employment Act was established. And it is divided into 2 parts. The first part is obligation of employer to employ a quota of disabled person and the reservation of disabled person for future vacancies in certain employments. The second one is provision of employment and training facilities under special or sheltered condition for more severely disabled who cannot get employment or work at their own account under ordinary competitive conditions. This made me feel good when I was looking at it. When I was thinking about myself, there are some opportunities or things that happen in my life that sometimes we can't get a job. Sometimes because of your nationalities, sometimes because of your credentials, sometimes because of your race. And it makes me feel happy that the world is realizing that these people with special needs will be given opportunity to have a job. In 1946, National Association of Parents of Backward Children was founded. And in 1948, the National Health Service began that took over the hospital services. During the time of 1920 to 1940s, major hospitals were built. In 1951, National Council for Civil Liberties Outside the Law highlighted a front to the civil rights liberties represented by the detention of mental defectives. Between 1945 to 1957, National Association of Parents of Backward Children gave evidence to the Royal Commission on the Law relating to mental illness and mental deficiency. The first village community in Boston was established in UK in England in 1955. And the same year, the Guild of Teachers of Backward Children was founded. The National Association of Parents with Backward Children, they started a Brooklyn experiment in 1958. This Brooklyn experiment in England that studied the benefits of home-like and family living environments for children with severe intellectual disability. They were moved from residential school to a large house called Brooklands. That's why it's called Brooklyn experiment. They are supported together with a staff of nurses, a supervisor, and an educator. In 1959, the Mental Act, which is the territorial extent is only England and Wales, which main objective is to abolish the distinction between psychiatric mental and other types of hospitals and other institutionalized mental health patients and see them treated more by community care. It feels good that when community are involved in helping these people. In Scotland in 1960, in Scotland abolished a Mental Deficiency Act that was founded in 1913, and they replaced it with the Scottish Lunacy Board of Control. Keep moving. The Ministry of Health report a hospital plan for England and Wales that is a 10-year plan, and in 1970, Education Act handicapped made education universal. This act made a provision for discontinuing the classification of handicapped children as suitable for education at schools in England and Wales. Yet, this act was then extended to Scotland and Northern Ireland. In 1971, Maureen Oswin showed the deprived lives led by children's long stay in hospitals. And in 1974, there was a reorganization of National Health Service. Remember, it was the National Health Service took over the leadership of this program. In 1980, Education Act, with specific reference provision of education by education authorities and the rights and duties of parents and function of education authorities in relation to individual learners. This was only limited in Scotland. In 1981, Education Act states that children should be educated in the mainstream schools or classes whenever possible. Looking back, when Arthur Henry Wood reported, disputed the segregation, and then in 1981 there was already an act of inclusion in England and Wales. In 1984, the first people group was founded in England. And in 1986, it was the first closure of a large long-stay institution of people with learning difficulties. In 1988, Disabled Person Services Consultation and Representation Act provided for the improvement and effectiveness and the coordination of resources in the provision and services for people with mental physical handicap and for people with mental illness, to make further provision for the assessment of the needs of such people, to establish further consultative processes and representational rights for such people and for connected purposes. And in 1989, another hospital was closed in Saddle Bridge. Okay, we're moving to 90s. In 1990, National Health Service and Community Care Act, this states that it's a duty for local authorities to assess people for social care and support to ensure that people who need community care services or other types of support get the services they are entitled to. Department of Health officially changed to people with learning disabilities. In 1992, the United Nations Convention on the Right of the Child is an international statement of civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights of the children. This came to England and became the law. In 1994, the Education Act primarily established the Teacher Training Agency and allowed students to opt out the Students' Union. The territorial extent of this act, the whole act, is England and Wales. Scotland was only included in Part 2 and Schedule 2, while Northern Ireland is only included in Schedule 2. In 1995, Disability Discrimination Act was founded, works for people with disabilities, including blind and partially sighted people, from discrimination. The Disability Discrimination Act of 1995 is an act of the Parliament of the United Kingdom which has not been repealed and replaced, which has now been repealed and replaced by Equality Act 10, except in Northern Ireland where the act still applies. Okay, in 1996 order, it provides a level framework for assessment and provision for SEN, and it requires the Education Authority, formerly the Education and Library Boards, to identify, assess, and make provision for children with SEN within the area. It also provides a definition of SEN. This is only in Northern Ireland. In 2001, Special Educational Needs and Disability Act, that's where the SEN started, stated that discrimination occurred with the educational establishment body either fails to make reasonable adjustment to accommodate individuals with special need or a disability, or when they give them less favorable treatment, made educational discrimination unlawful. In 2003, education, school teachers' qualification in England and Wales to work as a teacher of children in state schools under local authority control. And in special education school, and in special education must be qualified. So it means that working in an educational field, especially in SEN, you must be qualified. In 2004, the Education Additional Support for Learning places duties on education authorities, and in certain circumstances, health, social work, and skills development in Scotland to work to plan to make provision for children and young people with complex or multiple additional support needs. Sorry. Okay. The Mental Capacity Act. People with learning disabilities have the right to make their own decision if they have the capacity to do so. Its primary purpose is to provide a legal framework for acting and making decisions on behalf of adults who lack the capacity to make particular decisions for themselves. This Mental Capacity Act has only the territorial extent of England and Wales. In 2005, the Department of Education has provided guidance for the Education Authority and the school in the form of a code of practice on the identification and assessment of special education needs, and also a supplement for the code of practice effective from September 2005, which was produced as a result of SENDO. This one is the in 2007, UN Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities, UK as one of the a signatory to this convention, uphold the human rights for disabled people. In 2009, Education Additional Support for Learning Act, the key duties on education authorities are to identify, make provision for, and review provision for the additional support needs of the children and young people for whose education they are responsible. This act was amended in 2000, amended from 2004 Act of Scotland. In 2010, this is the beginning of the Equality Act. Remember in the previous slides, I told you that Northern Ireland was not included in this Equality Act. In England, Equality Act 2010 is up to date with all changes known to be enforced on or before 21st of November in 2018. It is discrimination law which protects individuals from unfair treatment and promotes fair and more equal society. The 9 main pieces of legislation that have emerged are Equality Pay Act in 1970 and Sex Discrimination Act of 1975. Wales and England, as you can see, they have the same act because the extension of that act is, the whole act is in that side. They are included in that one. Scotland, on the other hand, places the Equality Act places a duty on schools and education authorities not to discriminate against pupils with protected characteristics including disabilities, sexual orientation, and ethnicity. This includes admission to school, the way education is provided, access to benefit, facility or service, and exclusion. They must not treat pupils with disability less favorable and must take reasonable steps to avoid putting these pupils at a substantial disadvantage. The duty related to aids and services means that since September 2012, schools have to make reasonable adjustment. As you can see in Northern Ireland, the Equality Employment Act from 1998 to 2015 prohibits discrimination under the 9 grounds in employment, including vocational training and work experience, make sure suitable experience, make more suitable facilities for people with disabilities are available in relation to access to employment, advancing employment, and taking part in training. In 2013, in accordance with Special Education Needs Code of Practice of Wales, parents may express a preference for any maintained school they wish their child to attend, or may make representation for a placement in any other school. And in 2014, Children and Family Act 2014 in England states that a child or a young person has special educational needs if he or she has a learning difficulty or disability which calls for special educational provision to be made for him or her, which became law in 2014. In 2014, in Scotland, Children and Young People Act. This act concerns the provision of services and support for children and young people. It covers adoption, children's hearings, detention in secure accommodation, and consultation and certain proposals in relation to school. In 2015, we're almost done with these laws, all schools must have regard to the special educational needs and disability code of practice when taking decisions relating to pupils with SEND or disabilities. The code applies equally to maintain school, academics, and free schools in England. 2016 Education Act. This is under Scotland. The Act includes provision for strategic planning to consider socio-economic barriers to learning. It includes provision that extend to the rights of children aged 12 and over with capacity under the Additional Support for Learning Act. Children who are able to can use rights on their own behalf to affect decision-making about them. In 2016, Special Education Needs and Disability Act, this is only in Northern Ireland, it was called SEND. The Act places new duties on boards of governors, the Education Authority, and Health and Social Services Authority, and provides new rights for parents and children over compulsory school age. There's the last one. In 2018, Learning Needs and Educational Tribunal Wales Act of 2018. The legislation then received royal assent in 24th of January 2017 and became Additional Learning Needs Educational Tribunal Act in 2018. The current special education needs system therefore remains in place for all learners with SEN ALN until September 20. Okay. Each country use their own terms. And what target do they have? England used special SEN or special educational needs as well as Wales, but it will be replaced by ALN in 2020. Scotland used ASN, which means additional support needs. This term encompasses children who are being bullied and who are in foster care. Scotland used Northern Ireland used special educational needs, and these gifted and talented children are not regarded as special needs. Now let's go to support the children and young people age range. In England, it's 0 to 25 years old. In Wales, it's 0 to 25, which will change in the implementation of Learning Needs and Educational Tribunal Acts in 2020 from 0 to 19. In Scotland, there's from the young age, but there are students from age 12 to 15 have more rights under Education Act 2016. In Northern Ireland, 0 to 19 years old under Special Education Needs and Disability Act of 2016. Program for Personalized Learning Needs. In Scotland, they use in England, they use AEP. In Wales, they use IDP, which is Individual Development Plan. In Scotland, they use IEP. And in Northern Ireland, they use IEP as well. Teachers are responsible for SEN in school. In England, it is a SENCO, Special Educational Needs Coordinator, responsible for overseeing the support of people with SEN. It's the same in Wales. In Scotland, it is the educational authority for school education of a child or a young person. They are responsible whether the child needs support or not. They will be the one to apply for coordinated support. In Northern Ireland, they also use SENCO, while in small schools, the principal is responsible for it. The assessment process that they are using. England, Wales, they have the same process. No, not necessarily. A teacher uses the pre-K stage in England standard and assess students with SEN pupils who are working below overall standard. It engaged in student-specific learning. School have a statutory obligation to record assessment data for pupils at the end of every key stage. They have the key stage 1 to 3. P scales 1 to 4 remains statutory for pupils with SEN who are working below aspect of engagement. Aspect of engagement assessment aims to enable primary schools to better assess pupils with the most complex needs. It will enable every kind of progress made by this pupil to be identified and will allow a more flexible and personalized assessment. Wales, on the other hand, have the three action. The first action is school action, with school-based intervention and differentiated instruction. So it is in the school action. So if the intervention and differentiated instruction did not work, it's not sufficient, next action will be involved, which is the school action plus. Bring external professional or provide advice and guidance to school if the school require additional resources or ongoing specialists. If this doesn't work, then the statement will go. Statement asking local authority to make assessment of the child need and the provision they require. If the local authority agrees or refuses to assess, parents can make an appeal to Specialist Tribunal for Wales. This assessment will be replaced by Additional Learning Needs and Educational Tribunal Bill in 2018. of 2018. Scotland, on the other hand, the assessment process, education authority are responsible whether the child needs support or not, whether it is complex or multiple needs. Education authority will be the one to apply for a coordinated support plan and tapping other agencies. In Northern Ireland, as you can see, teachers, it also starts from school. Teacher identify and register the child and take initial action, which includes intervention and differentiated instruction. SENCO is responsible for collecting information and coordinating provision. Teachers and SENCO are supported by specialists from outside the school, which is also the same program, the School Action Plus in Wales. Board of Governors to formally request statutory assessment for pupils with SEN. And then the last part is board consider needs for statement, make statement, arranges, and review the provision. United Kingdom is has a very interesting SPED program. In spite of all of this, they're still facing a lot of problems in the implementations of this program. And same in other countries, same in the Philippines, same in Thailand, implementation is very critical. Though you have all the acts, all the legal basis, all the provisions, if these are not implemented correctly or properly, this will all be useless. I just hope that after listening to me, if you have some questions, I'm very much willing to respond. You can ask me, you can send me an email, and I will be very willing to respond to your email. Okay, there's a teacher certification in the last part that I want to talk about. Okay, in England, education, a postgraduate certificate in education, which you can study for after obtaining an academic degree by gaining a Bachelor of Education with BA through school-centered initial training center, school direct or teach first. Okay, this one is the qualification before you can teach at SEN. The same system they have in Wales. As you can see, in level 2 you have the quality teachers system. As you can see in Scotland, it's quite different. Some teachers require initial teachers training, which happens here, such as B.Ed or PGDE. All ITT courses include special educational needs element, and there are some specifically for SEN teaching. Giving qualified teacher status, which is QTS, and they must be registered with the appropriate General Teaching Council for Scotland. Okay. Move on, Northern Ireland, we're almost done. SEN teachers require initial teachers training degree, such as B.Ed or PGCE. And same in Scotland, giving qualified teacher status, and they must register. All teachers are required to register with the General Teaching Council for Northern Ireland. Thank you, and hope to see you all again.